Okay. Call this meeting in order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. All council members are present. You had an agenda that was presented in your packet. Is there any additions or changes to the agenda as presented?
The changes to the consent agenda. We had one additional claim, the chipper, and then item F, the exam permit to the chamber is April 4th. It was March 14th on the packet.
Okay. And those two things are in the handout that was presented this evening to you folks. With that, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented with that change?
So move.
Motion by Warren. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor. We have our minutes from our December 18th meeting. Is there any additions, corrections to the minutes as presented? I see none. Sure, everybody had a chance to review them. So is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Keith, second by Dave. Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor. Did you get the motion? Okay. Moving on to a public open forum. This is time for anybody who wishes to address the council. Is there anybody here this evening who has anybody wish to address the council tonight? Anybody wish to address the council? Seeing none, we will continue on with our agenda. Then we have no public hearings. We have one report. Brian, the monthly police report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Activity report for December 13th, or 2013. Some of the numbers we had, a pretty slow month it was. We had 12 alarms, 38 assists for other agencies, 10 child custody issues, 5 juvenile problems, 22 medicals, and it was really a lot of accidents in December. We had 26 accidents. For the one snow emergency that we had, we wrote 13 snowbirds for that. We had 12 suspicious calls, 3 thefts. We had 8 vehicles in the ditch calls, and we had 190 verbal warnings for a total activity of 474. So if you compare that to 2012, we were on calls we were up 11, warnings we were down 21, and total we were down 10. And let's see, compared to November, we were for calls we were down 16 calls, and warnings were up 43, and total up 27. So otherwise pretty quiet for December, and then we'll have some of the year-ending numbers for you next in the February meeting.
February meeting?
Yep.
Any questions for Brian in regards to the December report?
I just had one, the 57 verbal warnings for headlamps. Were those headlamps that were out, or what was the majority, or people that weren't using them during inclement weather? Or?
Probably a lot of that at this time of year.
Okay.
You know, people, if you're in inclement weather, you're using your windshield wipers for snow and stuff, you're supposed to have your lights on, and so probably a majority of those for that. Just to remind people that, you know, you're a lot more visible in the bad weather. So it's just a reminder then.
Okay. Any other questions for Brian? Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, guys.
Well, we have no other reports or presentations. That takes us right into our action items. Action item 7A is resolution number 2014-1, the resolution adopting the rules of order for our council meetings.
And every year, on the first meeting of the year, is the opportunity for the city council, if they so choose, to make amendments to the rules of order for the meetings. We have followed the same rules of order for several years. The resolution just lays out when the meetings are held, the order of the agenda, et cetera. And I did provide that to you in the packet. And this is the same rules we adopted last year. Unless you are recommending some changes, I'd request adoption of resolution 2014-01.
Any questions of staff? I think Robert's rules is pretty common practice, seems to work well for us. So I recommend approving resolution 2014-1. Anybody like to entertain that motion?
So move.
Motion by Warren, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 5 in favor. None against. Thank you. Moving on to resolution 2014-2, appointing council members to serve on various boards and commissions and also making annual appointments.
And this is the appointments for the annual year for the boards and commissions, city attorney, city engineer, et cetera. And I did provide you tonight with the mayor's recommendations. And we did include the column for 2013, so you can see what the changes are between 2013 and 2014. And go ahead.
All right. First of all, I want to thank everybody that gave me their feedback in regards to the specific committees they were interested in serving on and or any commissions that they wanted to serve. What I did is I went through them all, took in all of the comments, and I think I made very few changes, but every one that I made was the ones that you'd asked to be either switched or moved or were interested in serving on. So with that, I'll just go through my recommendations for 2014, and we'll go through the whole sheet, and then if anybody has any suggestions, we can look at it at that time. Acting mayor, and these are all following a lot of 2013s, as you can see here, but Warren Stone, engineer Stantec, city attorney Thomas Mayer, HRA board liaison Mike Olson, park board Warren Stone, planning commission Warren Stone, EDA myself and Keith Johnson, Sauk senior center liaison Dave Thomas, airport commission Keith Johnson, CVV board David Thomas, planning and policy and planning committee Mike and Dave, operations committee Dave and Keith, personnel committee myself and Warren, finance committee myself and Mike, the official newspaper Sauk Center Herald, the depositories Minnesota National Bank, the First State Bank, Central Minnesota Credit Union, the 4M Fund, Morgan Stanley Smith & Barney, and Multi-Bank Securities. Fire Chief John Egan, First Assistant Steve Mortz, Second Assistant Ron Mortz, Secretary and Treasurer Dave Mortz, Training and Safety Officer Scott Kowski. The Fire Department was recommended by and voted on by the department for those specific positions. So that is my recommendation for 2014's committees and commissions. A lot of times, I will just note, a lot of times what we have is the Finance and Personnel Committee will be the same two because they interact, but because of interest we had, and of past times we split them up from year to year. I thought we would do that again this year just based on interest. So with that, anybody have any questions or anybody entertain a motion to approve the appointments as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Mike, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Warren. We have a motion to approve the appointments as presented, and a second. Is there any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 5 in favor. Yes, thank you. Vicki, we also have this evening 2 resignations, I believe, from the fire department. You want to
The two resignations that we have, and these are both people that have served on the department for 25 years. It is Joe Dieters and John Metcalf, and they both came onto the department on January 1st, 1989, so it's 25 years of service. So we're requesting that you accept those resignations from them and wish them well in their future endeavors of volunteerism, whatever that may be.
All right. Now, again, these were approved at the last fire meeting, so with that, I've had the privilege to work with them for a lot of years, and they're great people, and that serve the city well in the department, so we will wish them well. Is there a motion to accept the resignations of Joe Dieters and John Metcalf from the Sauk Center Fire Department?
So moved.
Motion by Dave. Is there a second? Seconded by Keith.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. Moving on to D, 2014 Board and Commission appointments.
As you know, at the last meeting in December, when we appointed boards and commissions, we had some remaining openings. They were Park Board, Senior Center Board, and Planning Commission. We do have a recommendation tonight for the Park Board. There's one position left to be filled for a 2-year term, and Brian Fredericks has expressed interest, and we're recommending that he be appointed. And also the Senior Center Board, we can actually have up to 15 on that board, and Sharon Tolan has requested to be appointed to that board, and she is with Senior Dining, so that'll be a good connection with Senior Dining and the Senior Center. So they are also recommending that appointment be made. And then we still do have remaining vacancies on the Planning Commission.
Okay. So this will be our 7th member on the Senior Center Board?
Correct.
Okay.
In addition to the council rep.
Yep. Very good. Any questions of staff? None? Is there a motion to approve Brian Fredericks to the Park Board for one position to be appointed for a 2-year term, and also to appoint Sharon Tolan to the Senior Center Board for a 3-year term?
So moved.
There's a motion by Keith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Warren. Is there any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor. Thank you. Moving on to Action 7E, Resolution 2014-3, authorizing prepayment of certificate of indebtedness.
This is a recommendation that is coming from the fire chief, and on October 19th, 2011, we approved the issuance of a certificate of indebtedness from the local bank, and it was toward the purchase of the 2011 Freightliner, I believe, the last fire truck that we purchased. And we now have adequate funds in the fire department operating fund to pay that note off in full. As of January 15th, the balance owed is $52,892.28. And if we do prepay this, we will save over the balance of the term $2,292.18 in interest. And so it's the recommendation of the fire chief that we prepay that at this time. And I did provide for you Resolution 2014-3 calling for redemption of that certificate.
Any questions? None? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2014-3 calling for the redemption of the outstanding certificate of indebtedness with Minnesota National Bank?
So moved.
Motion by Warren. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I'll call the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor. Okay, we are moving on to our unfinished business. Vicki, debt report?
If you recall at the December council meeting, I believe Councilman Thomas, requested that we be provided with an updated report on the city debt. This was after the council took action to prepay or call some of the bonds that we had on February 1st. So I provided an attached report that gives you the 10-year history, 2005 to 2014. These 2014 numbers take into consideration everything that's getting paid off that you had already called. If you will note, the overall debt for the city, the PUC, and the hospital combined declined by 24%. The city part of that was a decrease of 53%. The hospital debt decreased 31%. The PUC, the public utility debt did increase 129%, and that was due to the construction of the new wastewater treatment facility. And I did provide to you them broke into threes and combined totals along with the charts. You can kind of see the trend that we're having with the debt for the city. So that's a good thing. And then on the page 32, I also showed what of that is requires a tax levy requirement. And there's about $2.5 million that requires a tax levy over the next 15 years, that is. So it's about $180,000 a year of levy requirement for debt if you averaged it out. Now, the way the payments come in, it's going to be a little higher and lower than each of that each year. So as we're able to reduce our levy requirement for debt, you can either reduce the levy or allocate those dollars to other activities. So does anybody have any questions on how I came up with those numbers or where you see it going?
No specific questions other than maybe Dave remembers he's on the PUC. What year did we do the water treatment plant?
Oh, I think it's actually on here. 98 is water plant.
What year?
1998.
Okay, because I didn't see it.
It's actually listed here, the second one, water plant improvement PFA loan.
I was looking on the graph.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at the listing here.
So it was prior to 2005.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions otherwise for Vicki in regards to the information? No. Thank you, Vicki. I appreciate that. It's really great information for those that are following the financials, which we all are very closely. I know as I was looking it over and seeing them all decreasing, and obviously we've had a lot of discussion over the hospital over the years, and then the PUC's wastewater plant, you can see how that impacts that particular budget, but in general, things are looking good, so I appreciate the time it took for you to put that together. Moving on then to our other unfinished business this evening, the insurance agent letters of intent.
If you recall at the meeting that we'd requested that we send out letters to any of the insurance agents in town that might be interested in serving as our agent to manage our League of Minnesota Cities insurance program. I did receive three letters of interest, and two of them from the two that, our existing one and Advantage, and then one additional one. And so I didn't know whether the council, when you had your discussion last time, if the council as a whole wants to have these three companies come in and address the council as a whole, or if you want to take that to committee, how you wanted to handle that. Because I know at the last meeting, it was I kind of felt you were leaning toward the council as a whole looking at that.
I think I will certainly take input from the council, but I know the committee had looked at one and had received input from two of them already. So my thought would be is if we would take input from the three interested parties, let them present their information to the council, and if the council chooses, we'll make a decision. We don't have to make a decision that evening. We can take that input to think about it over the course of the next time and come up with questions if we may have it, and then make a decision at the following meeting. But I would like to see them present their information to the full council rather than just probably
What kind of information are you looking for? Brad, when you say present information, what kind of information are they presenting?
What they typically do is they talk about what we've had so far. They came in and shared with us their knowledge in regards to their League of Minnesota Cities knowledge of the insurance itself, because it's already pretty much, I don't want to say it's cut and dry, but it's pretty determined what they have to carry and how much. So basically it's their ability to follow the league's insurance guidelines, I would say, and then their ability to be able to explain the insurance coverage to us as a city if and when a particular issue would arise. We have some people that have had a lot of experience. We have others that have had experience, but not necessarily with the city of Sauk Center. And we have others that have showed some interest because they want to begin to offer that. So it's really kind of an open bag of what we've got right now. And so for us to, I have no problem going to the committee if this is what the council feels, but I always have felt the council always thought bringing it to a full council sometimes was what the choice was.
It just seems that it's kind of subjective, quite subjective in regards to how we would go about rewarding it is how you measure somebody's knowledge. I mean, you know, unless there's, you know, the way I'm looking at this seems to me to be similar to what we would do to awarding the fuel to, for city consumption, the squad cars. It's a cost issue. They're going to get a percentage of the handling fee. There should be a basic requirement of competency, and we should be able to articulate that in regards to whether there's any insurance certifications out there, and then just let them bid and go that way, as opposed to trying to put some kind of measurement on ability.
And it's a good way to maybe rephrase what I was saying. I think being able to articulate and for us to be able to feel that we are being represented, I think in some degree, and also that we're confident that our agent of record understands it, to me is pretty valuable. Someone that has a lot of experience, definitely there's a value to that.
Absolutely.
That knows, you know what, or should we be carrying $3 million in additional insurance versus stay with the current recommendation of the league of $1 million, as an example. So I kind of feel that it's good for the council to understand that there is a sense of expertise in that field as well. So
Right, but I guess I'm still trying to get at how you would
how we measure that.
Yeah, because I mean,
what
it's,
it would be is maybe part of our, maybe what we do is we send them out well, we have two ways. We can either send them out a question and answer type of dialogue, or we ask them to come and present themselves to the council. But I guess I would certainly entertain the idea to put together some type of a question, if that's what we need.
well, okay, that's fine, but I guess I'm trying to get to understand, you know, the League of Minnesota Cities has a recommendation of what we should be carrying. That's boilerplate. That's what we should do, right?
The league has.
Okay, so that's kind of.
The league of,
Right, so that's set, that's there. And so do we feel we need more than that?
in some cases, we do carry more than that.
Shouldn't we necessarily be deciding that without,
We do.
Okay,
When it's
so-
presented to us. We approved that, I believe it was in November, Vicki, when Mike.
December, I think.
yeah, I understand, but what I'm saying is that what we need for our insurance for the city, we should know what that is, correct? I mean, it should be fairly set, and so that if any of these other people come in and make other recommendations, is this information that we would be unaware of, that we need more coverage, that would change our opinion as to who we would select?
Not sure that we would I'm not sure they would recommend a different coverage.
Okay, so we're back to what the League of Minnesota Cities recommends for coverage, and then we have some additions we've put on there.
Yeah.
So here's our package.
That's correct.
And we really don't have an interest in changing that.
I believe that we've always stayed with the League of Minnesota Cities
Okay,
as our
good.
coverage.
So it would seem to me then that anybody comes in has to have the ability to enact that administer that coverage.
Correct.
And so that would require some certifications in regards to being an insurance agent?
Good question. I don't know what that is.
Well, my point again is trying to say, if you have three in front of you, how do you decide which is the best that fits all? And it just seems that responses to questions, unless there's a specific thing you're looking for, is pretty open. So again, maybe this could go to committee and hash this out some more, but it just seems to me that this is an issue of who's going to get the percentage for enacting a set list of insurance coverages. And so whoever, from the city standpoint, from my standpoint, is here's what we've got, who can do it for me the cheapest, do a sealed bid, we open it, we're done.
Would be another option.
That would be one way. I'll just throw that out there. Because I just see a can of worms in this other process that somebody's going to say, well,
That would be an
you know, your interpretation of their question wasn't accurate because I meant this when they said that. And so,
What's the rest of the council feel?
Personally, I think it should go to committee. If we need to come up with a question and answer type thing, to bring all three in, I don't know. I think if it goes to committee and it's decided that way and then brought to the council, it leaves out all the personalities and you know, basically like Mike said, it comes down to, this is cut and dried. The only reason why we're looking at this is because other people wanted to get in the game. And basically, it's up to them, and I think on paper, they can prove what they're gonna do for us, knowing there isn't anything really gonna change. But we're given this chance to let someone else have it, is basically what the whole thing is.
Go ahead,
I'm actually inclined to think that this is a good opportunity to just have a little work group deal and have the three of them come in. And it won't be a committee, but it'll be just to get the information. I mean, I'm not sure which committee we'd send it to. Your indications are that there isn't really any financial competition. It's all about skill and experience. So you don't send it to the finance committee if they're all bidding the same amount anyway. It's not, I don't know that it's a policy decision for that committee. It's not really operations. It certainly isn't personnel. I mean,
Well, this is the first time.
where would you put it except, you know, I guess I'd like to see them all here, but I don't know that I want to see them at the city council meeting here.
Okay. Keith?
Yeah, that's kind of the way I feel too. I don't, you know, as far as bottom line for me probably would be what's it going to cost the city. And we have a set of minimums that they all have to meet. If you get extra for the same price of what the other two have minimums for, all the better. So I think a work group session would be good too.
One other question I had in regards to, here we have 3 people that have submitted. Are we limiting in regards to who can apply for this?
We're not, but there's, Vicki, you can probably answer that a little better, but there's only certain people that can.
Well, what we did was we sent letters out to all the insurance agents in town and asked anybody that was expressing interest in managing it to send in a letter of interest, and that's where we had. I had 3 replies. So now we're narrowed down to those 3.
So,
now, whether all 3 of them are competent with League of Minnesota Cities Trust, I can't tell you because we haven't talked to them further.
How about outside the city? If someone was to come and apply, would we restrict it only to people with?
I guess that's up to the city council.
Okay.
I only sent it out to the local ones because that was the council's direction at the meeting.
I mean, I could see that happening to us in the future, and I just thought that might be something to consider if we were going to set some criteria by which we take these, who's eligible to apply, and by what way we're going to decide how.
It's very convenient when they're in town for us.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm not saying that I'm opening it up to everything, but I'm just saying it might be, if we're in the process of deciding these criteria, that may be one other one to throw into the mix to say how, if we get somebody from out of town, do we want that? You know, somebody could come in and do it cheaper than the 3 in town, and would that be our only criteria for making that selection? I just ask the question.
Well, that's a pretty good question.
Thank you very much.
It sounds like the general feelings of the council would be to invite them to a work group session, and we will let them present to us their interest in serving as our agent of record at one of our, should we do it before one of our council meetings, in a future council meeting, or what's the feelings of the group? Vicki's our timeline, we need to get this done sooner than...
No.
So...
Our renewal has gone in with the existing agent already, so...
Right, so our next council meeting, which is the first Wednesday...
It's February 5th, I believe.
We could do it at...
I don't know if they'll, I have to, we'll have to contact them and make sure they're available too,
Right.
but that's 3 weeks out.
Yeah.
And we would have them do what at this meeting?
We would have them come and present to us their interest in serving us as a letter of agent. They will present to us their cost, fee structure.
Okay.
And I guess that's whatever else information they want to share with us.
Do we want, okay, fine.
right?
Yep, no, that's good.
Otherwise, if you-
I'm just thinking, no, I'm just thinking about all three of them sitting in there, and each is going to say how much they're going to do it for, and how are you going to do that process? Would it be fair to them?
I would
to see-
imagine we would do this similar to how we interviewed for city engineers, maybe. They each have an opportunity to come in and give a presentation, separate from each other.
Okay,
Not
that's
the-
fine.
not the same
That seems to me to be reasonable. Okay.
And I'm sorry, I should have been clear.
I just saw them all three sitting next to each other. It was the vision I had, and it didn't seem like it was going to work real well.
That can work too.
Yeah,
I
okay.
would say we would meet, we would set it up for 5:30 at the first Wednesday in February for the first presentation, and we'll give them each 15 minutes if they need it, and we'll go from there. Is that right? Okay?
That's fine.
You're
Are
make that?
we going to have a set of questions that each one of them is going to have? So we can compare apples to apples here? Or are we
Well, I think
just-
that's just what Brad mentioned as far as,
I think obviously is they have to be able to be an agent with the League of Minnesota. That's
we need
the biggest
their experience and skill level, yeah.
And they can share with us their experience and skill level, and we have to know what the cost will be for them to be basically their cost. So I think those really are the two things that we would have.
Okay.
Any additional information they want to share with us in their 50 minutes of service?
I think the only other thing I'd say is I'd ask each of them, make a recommendation on our insurance. I mean, it can be a little off the cuff. I don't know, they can work on it as much as they want, but basically, we have league insurance at a certain rate. If they feel that that's inappropriate for some reason, then let's hear it now.
I think they all have, we certainly can provide them our current coverage, and they'll have that information prior to coming in.
Yeah.
Okay? General consent is that we move that to a work session on the first Wednesday of February at 5:30. Everybody?
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. Thanks. Okay, we're moving on then to new business. 9A, request to amend ordinance 7 CVB membership criteria.
In your packet, I gave you, this presentation, but what the request is from the CVB, which is one of the city boards, is that we consider amending its requirements for membership on the board. And the two amendments that they're requesting is that we remove the restriction that the Chamber of Commerce representative that cannot be a paid employee of the organization. So when we first set it up, it said it had to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce. So who's ever in Sauk Center that's a member can serve on that position, but not an employee of the Chamber is how we'd originally set it up. And they're asking that that be removed. And then also they're requesting that the term limits removed. We had 3 consecutive 3-year terms. And then you could leave a term and then come back. So those were the two things that they would like to change. In the first box on page 34, that's the CVB board minutes where they talked about it, so you can kind of see where they were coming from. And then the existing city code is there highlighted and underlined, the part that we would have to change. And so if the city council is inclined to make an amendment, then I would bring back an actual ordinance amending it at the next meeting. The other option is to say, no, we're not interested. The other option is to just have the committee go meet and then more in depth. However, Ann Carlin is here at the meeting tonight, so she can answer any questions that you have regarding why they're requesting this change.
Right. Before I ask Ann to come up, is there any questions for Vicki? I think she's outlined here what the current code is and maybe what some of the questions are. If anybody has no questions for Vicki, Ann, I do have a couple questions for you if you want to step up to the mic. I had an opportunity to visit a little bit with Vicki, and I also read your excerpt from the CVB's board minutes, and I believe, Keith, were you in CVB as well? And one of the questions that I had, or actually I'm just going to note one of my comments is it seems to be a question about these dollars of what they're coming in and who they're serving and and one of the reasons I say that is the folks that have a vested interest in this 3% lodging tax to be allowed to serve on the board without any term limits. I think it would be important for me to note that all of those funds come back to the city. These aren't necessarily the lodging dollars. They're not necessarily money because it's lodging money. Those are CVB dollars, we understand, but those funds come to the city, and the city turns around and puts them back to the CVB to use for enriching the community. It's not necessarily money that's just for the hotels or motels. I think I just want to make that real clear, because I read through here, the insert here, a little bit about we have vested interest in the funds that we raise or that we provide to the city. And those are not dollars necessarily coming by any one entity. The other thing that I want to note is when I review the current code, we spent a lot of time, and it's nice to see that I think everybody that's on here had some engagement in the code, maybe other than Mike when it was first set up. And we spent some great amount of energy talking about this code and specifically how it was going to be put together in regards to being three-year terms, so 9 consecutive years, and then off one term and then back on. And then also we've talked about the chamber representative and or a representative of the city that's not paid employee of the organization. I think there was maybe some confusion and maybe on our part to state that, you know, the representative of the chamber don't have to be a director, don't have to be anybody other than a chamber person. Then there's a lot of chamber people. So I've got to believe that there's some interest in someone from the chamber wanting to serve potentially on this committee, I would hope. So I just wanted to note that. I've been in favor of this CVB board from the beginning, and I still am. However, I think we put a tremendous amount of energy into the code, and I believe we put the code together specifically for, as it reads. But I'm open to this council's interest in how they feel about it to make any changes. I do think having, I have a question also about, there was some discussion about whether or not there's a conflict. Earlier when this was originally set up, we had a conflict of whether they're chamber, and so because if they're a paid chamber person, they should or shouldn't be on board. And we said if they were paid, they shouldn't be. And if you read through your notes here, you've noted that a little bit here in the excerpt from your minutes. So I don't know that there's any difference today. As it says now, there's no conflict of interest as the two entities are separated. Well, I believe the entities have always been.
No.
They have not always been separated, is what you're telling me.
No, and that's why that was put in there, that it couldn't be a paid person, but now they are separated. So now it really isn't any conflict having a person who is paid to be on that board.
I didn't know that there was ever a conflict in the past, but okay. Yes.
When it was first set up, the CVB didn't have an employee, and so the CVB contracted with the chamber to provide administration. So
Okay.
when we had this, the chamber employees were contracted to provide administration for the CVB, so they thought, well, if they're a contracted person providing administration, they shouldn't be serving on the board. That's how we first set it up. But since then, now they've separated, they're still separate, but now they have their own employee rather than contracting with the
Okay.
chamber.
They've
So
always
that's
been
what
separate.
they've always been
They've just
separate, but the
contracted
staff
service. Thank you.
was the same
Okay.
staff person. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that clarity. With that, Ann, do you have any thoughts you want to share with us? I know I've been speaking a little bit on how my feelings are, but I'd certainly like to hear it from your perspective. And then we've got a full council here that's willing to, I think, take that into consideration.
Well, Mayor and City Councilors, the reason it came up is trying to fill the positions that we had this year, and we do have some of the hotel lodging folks who are nearing their 3-year term. None of them have actually hit that yet. But we, Andrea, the chamber president, asked her entire board, and none of them could. I went out and personally tried to get Barb Sherwood. She doesn't have time. Brad Trattles over at the Truckers Inn. He didn't send his in. So, I mean, we've tried to go out and find people who might have an interest into how we promote the city and what we do with the dollars that are there. And so the board discussed it, and since we were having trouble, we thought, well, maybe the people, the hotels that do provide that 3% lodging tax, they really would like to know how it's promoted and to encourage people to come into the city. that they would like to stay on the board if they would like to. And right now, Barb Sherwood is the only one who can't. She's being a lone person. She left. She wouldn't have anyone to take over her business. So as much as she'd like to be on the board, she declined at this time. So we just wanted to make sure that we had enough people on the board who were interested in what we were doing, I guess.
So, and it's not just about the hotels, you know, the hospitality, I think, is a fairly large gamut. Did you kind of go full circle to see if there's other interests, then, and you mentioned Brian, but I think
Yep.
there's a lot of hospitality in the community as well.
Yep, we've had retail. Sarah Weber's on the board from Feast of Heaven. We've had Anita from Center Floral, but she had to decline. It was too busy. One-person shops are kind of tough to do. We didn't go to like convenience stores or things like that. We were trying to think of who would be most interested, which would be, your restaurants, your lodging, and your retail is basically the three that we were looking at. So certainly we can continue to try, and we'd love to have new people on the board, but we just thought we'd bring this to the council to see if we could just take that 3-term limit off as a requirement to have in there.
Okay. So any council have any questions in regards to?
I was going to say that I agree with you, Brad, in the sense that one of the issues here is the prevalent view of the CVB that 3% belongs to the folks that run the motels and hotels, and as you said, that's not the case. It really does belong to the city, and if they want to, maybe they could just do their own 3% tax, and where the city doesn't have to be a part of it, and they can do what they want with it. Otherwise, I think what this seems to me to be is limiting participation, and I think the CVB really needs to work at increasing. And when someone tells me that no one has interest or they're too busy, usually means that they don't value what you're doing enough to make time. You know, we make decisions based on what we value, and I would like to see the CVB be more active and inclusive with whoever. We have a somewhat small community, and to be eliminating people based on anything is probably not a real good idea, depending what store they're on. Is that we need everybody involved on this. We need ideas, and we need creative ideas. And that when my involvement when I was at the chamber was that 3% was, this is our money. We give it to the city. It was so prevalent, and I see it here again, and I just think that that's a real problem in my mind, that this is to promote the city, not to put people heads on beds in these hotels. That's all, everybody. We're looking at raising all boats on this, and when people have that narrow viewpoint on it, I think it limits the possibilities of what we can do, because people get a little predisposed as to what makes a successful promotion and campaign. So I'm not in favor of this. I would like to see the CVB open its membership and get new people in there and be more creative.
Certainly membership is open to anyone.
Well, obviously you're having some trouble with it because you're asking for us to remove limits on terms, and so because you can't find anybody. Well, that isn't this problem. I think that's the CVB's problem.
We'll keep trying.
Any other comments?
Well, I think I don't have a problem with the Chamber of Commerce changing so that we don't have the requirement of being a non-paid employee. To me, that makes sense that Andrea Kerfeld, if she has an interest, as a member of the Chamber of Commerce, is likely to represent a wide range of those people that might otherwise fall into the hospitality anyway, but aren't serving on their own.
Sure.
So, but as far as, term limits, I'm willing to look at that if we are having a difficult time filling board spots. But otherwise, I think I'd be inclined to leave it alone unless that becomes a problem. And it might. We have problems filling other boards too, so.
Any other comments?
I don't have any problem with the first one with the chamber having, if Andrea's the one, that's fine. The confusion I got right now is with the term limit thing. Basically, it says 3 consecutive 3-year terms. That's basically what we're talking about. I think also with the CVB, doesn't it state that there has to be, 4 members?
True.
From the hospitality or lodging.
Right.
So we're not changing any of that.
No.
We're just eliminating the 3 consecutive 3-year terms. And I think that we're looking at 2 different things here. If they've been in the hospitality lodging business and they've been on there for 9 years, yeah, then we got a problem replacing them because we don't have a huge influx of hotels or hospitality people getting in there, like, say, Alexandria, where they rotate their people all the time, and they don't have that problem. Where in Sauk Center, we've got a captured audience, basically, on being on this board. And if the term limit is standing in the way of maybe losing over half the board, then we're not doing the CVB any good. Also, it kind of falls in line with other things, with other boards and committees that we've got out there now, where I've always said we're limiting some of these people from being involved if they wanted to, basically on the time of the meetings. So now are we going to do the same thing to the CVB board? Are we going to limit them by being, okay, you've done your 9 years, there's nobody else out there, you can't be on there regardless. The bylaw says there has to be 4 lodging or hospitality people.
Well, then I would suggest we change the bylaws then.
Well, that's not up to us, is it?
Sure it is.
Well, it's always up to us.
It's always up to us. We can change that. I mean, so if it's a case that this was constructed to be unknowingly at that time too limiting, well, instead of letting the same people continue to serve us over and over, maybe it makes more sense to get more people in there and get more people involved. I think that's much better for us as a community, more participation, than it is to say, well, I'm sorry, you can't find anybody in hospitality, so you guys get to stay there all the time. That doesn't seem like that's a good idea for the CVB's effectiveness.
You have to look at experience and what has worked. I think this is probably, I believe it's next month we get the report. And I think you'll see that that's anything but biased towards the, strictly the lodging. I mean, it's, granted, it may seem like more emphasis is put into lodging, but it all trickles down. If people stay here, they spend money here in hospitality.
Oh, I understand that. But
it's, you look at the wealth of knowledge that this person has going from year to year to year to year to year, as opposed to someone that, oh, all right, you can't find anyone, I'll do it, coming in. Okay, there you got about 2 years bringing that person up to speed, and then third year place. It's, I guess myself, I'm in favor of waiving both of these. Now that division is between the chamber and the city is definite, then as far as that, I think that paid employee clause should be changed. And as far as the term limits, if you can't find any interest in it, I know it's advertised that there are openings that's available to all citizens to know that there is an opening for this particular committee or board, and no one expresses interest, where a member of that board or committee has to go out and actually solicit people to be on it, and they still don't want to be on it, and yet you've got someone that's obviously worked well for 9 years and is still interested in it.
One thing I want to add down to Keith's is, this, unless I totally missed it, this is the only board that has a term limit in all of the city. So if it's been working good for all these other boards and committees, why all of a sudden is it so strict to be so tied down to restrict these people? You know, and we've had people that have been on boards and committees with this city probably longer than 9 years.
Well, I think, as I stated when I opened up, we had 4 of us that put this together.
That's
So,
right.
you know, there had to have been some thought process put into the term limits at that time.
Right.
Otherwise, we would not have done that. So, yeah, I think there's probably some reasoning to both sides of where we're at. I do think the CBB, things change very, very quickly out there, especially when you're promoting a community or an area. Whether it's be an event center that opens or closes, or a new facility that's built in your community. I think the CVB constantly is looking at that and has done a great job in the years that it's been in place. And there's no doubt we have some knowledgeable, wonderful people that are on here. You make that comment, Warren, in regards to the only one committee that we have that has term limits, and I will go out tomorrow and talk to somebody and they'll say, why don't you have term limits on others? You know what I mean?
Right.
So you got both sides of that very consistently. So I guess there's arguments to both. At this point, where we're at with it is, I think Ann is here and has presented her feelings and thoughts to us on behalf of the CBB, and I thank you, Ann, for that. What staff needs is what's the direction and what's the feeling of this council. So in regards to, we need to have an ordinance brought back to us for action. We don't really have that in front of us tonight.
Well, it's simple enough changes, but we have a CBB that has all its spots filled. Is
Yes.
that true? So there's no rush. We have a board that's fully staffed until the end of December. So
Is it fully?
The chamber representative is not filled. The chamber representative is vacant.
Is what?
Is vacant.
Is open.
A member, a representing of the chamber, that position has not been filled.
Okay.
Because his was up at the end of December, and then he did not request to come back as a chamber representative.
Okay. Well, I got the impression that nobody had a problem with having Andrea Kerfeld on the board. We could make the decision for this year that that's acceptable and address the ordinance during the year sometime. There's no rush to do that part. We could waive that requirement for the next 11 months, and
You could.
We could.
that would solve the immediate problem, and we could look into exactly what we want to do to address the board overall.
So what I'm hearing, if I can put that all together, would be is the group feels that having a representative of the Chamber of Commerce and not being an employee of the organization does not feel is in the best interest. We would like to see that removed. And instead it would state the city council and one member at large, rather than the representative of the council, of the chamber. And I have no problem supporting that either. In regards to the rest of it and the terms, I think I would like more information on city code and how we'd look at that. So if you want to entertain a motion, Dave, I would accept that.
I will, I'll make another recommendation part of that too. I would like to say that for this year, make a motion that for this year we waive the requirement regarding this Chamber of Commerce representative to allow them to be a paid member, paid position, and that we turn the remainder of this ordinance to the policy committee to investigate and make a recommendation as to what we want to do with the overall ordinance.
Very good. We have a motion by Dave. Vicki and Nikki, did you get the motion? Okay, we have a motion by Dave to move the entire code to the policy committee and also to waive the requirement that the chamber representative may not serve and to allow them to serve as a paid employee for this remaining 11 months. That's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Dave, second by Warren. Is there any discussion?
Just one comment. This will be going to the policy committee, which is fine, but wanted to just make it clear that, I was probably I was the first council member to be sitting on the CVB when they first started up. And if I remember right, the whole layout of the whole existing code came from a template from another CVB from a larger city. And for the 4 of us that did act on this thing, it was basically a whole new animal that nobody had ever handled before. So I can see where the changes over the years could come. So it's just one of those things I wanted to point out to anybody that had questions about.
Very good points. I agree.
Well, I think
Any other discussion?
3 council members have been on the CVB board. Is that, I think that's my understanding, right? Keith has been on it. I have been on the board. You haven't, I don't think. And I haven't, but I will be now. So pretty soon we'll all have a lot of experience.
Right. Very good. With that, is there any other discussion? I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor, none against. Thank you.
So is there going to be a recommendation to appoint Andrea to that position then, or is that something we would be asking for her to submit?
I think she would have to officially request it. We've only been hearing this, so.
Appoint her at a future meeting.
Okay.
And then we will move on. Grant opportunities, Vicki?
Just a couple of grant opportunities that have come up, and as they go on year to year. And the Safe Routes to School, the school district is requesting that the city apply for that Safe Routes to School grant again. Now, they actually, as of today, I believe it is, they appropriated $2 million for that fund, and part of that will be for infrastructure. And our grant before was for a trail from the back of the elementary school that goes up Eastview and East Street up to Sinclair Lewis Avenue, so kind of a trail along there, and then also a sidewalk on the north side of 10th Street from Fairlane to Ash to get children up to that sidewalk. And that's what we had applied for before, and if that still seems like a viable application, we could refresh that and submit it. And so that's one thing, and the school actually brought that up, that they would request that we reapply. The thing is, it's no longer 100% paid. I believe it's 80-20 now, or 75-25. The second grant is that Homeland Security Hazard Mitigation. If you recall, we went back and got sirens, storm shelters, and a generator put in our hazard plan with the county in the intention that some future date we would be able to apply for a grant. Those funds have been allocated, and we were looking at the possibility. It started out with the storm shelter, and then we had talked about actually in the budget process of doing something with sirens next year, and I also talked to the PUC, and they're still interested in the generator at the water plant. So there's an opportunity that we may want to pursue that grant 80-20 with Homeland Security. And then also there's several recreation grants that are in the rotation right now, outdoor recreation grant and some different ones that the Splash Pad Committee is working on. So there's several different grant opportunities that we have here. This is just kind of a general outlay of them. I'm not asking for any requests from the council tonight, but if we do start working through those, they would have to come back to the city council for approval to actually apply for the Safe Routes to School in the Homeland. So I just wanted to get a little bit of input from the council if you think now is the time that we pursue these, or if you don't want us to, spend our time on it, I guess.
I think, Vicki, a couple things. One is the Homeland Security Mitigation Grant. There's been a lot of media as of late, just in the last week or two, about cities getting funded for sirens replacement. And I believe there's 3 or 4 of them in the cities that were just talking about in the news this weekend. So it seems to be very applicable, and it must be very close to the near and dear heart of the grant lords to release funds for that. I would definitely support going out to try to get those upgraded, as we do need to have that done. The Safe Routes to School, I do have some questions on that, because I know we've been turned down a couple times in regards to that, and I'm wondering, do we have to rewrite that grant application in order to get accepted, or do we really know why that grant has not been funded in prior years? Is it too big? Is it not meeting some criteria? I mean, I think we need to look at it deeper before we submit it to understand maybe why.
I did get feedback. The first time that we did it, that was when Safe Routes to School first came out, and there was a huge turnout. And so we didn't get any specifics other than the fact that it diluted the pool so much. The second time that we applied, they decided only to fund education, like teach kids how to use crosswalks and do brochures and things, so they weren't funding infrastructure. So now, as of today, we've learned that this round will fund infrastructure. But you're right, we still would like to know whether or not we really, see, we hired that done the first time, and then the second time we did it as staff, updating it. You know, we could certainly look at it and maybe get some feedback from the state on, because they will review them for us and find out what it is that made us not make the cut, and we could at least take it that far.
Well, I would certainly support us if there's opportunities for us to get some of these projects funded at, whether it's 80-20 or 75-25, whatever that may be. That's a big share of some very important projects.
The only other thing with Safe Routes to School is they changed it this year that the state aid cities can apply. We're not a state aid city until we reach 5,000 population. So then we have to have the county be the applicant. We have to apply through the county, so then it requires, you know, going to the county board and getting their support. So there's an extra step there, which I'm not sure how supportive Stearns County is yet. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to them. But we'll get a little more information on it first, and before we proceed with it, we'll bring it back to the council.
Great. Any questions, council? I would think everybody in the council is feelings to move forward and do what we can with them.
Do whatever we can with all of them.
Sounds good. Well, then we will move into our consent agenda. We have several things on our consent agenda this evening. We have a schedule of claims, unpaid claims of $1,515,285 and paid claims of $264,511 for a total schedule of claims of $1,801,632.55. We also have our December checks, check numbers 2059E through 2091E. Also 034610 through 034743. Several payroll checks and 5 ACH transfers for a total of $638,470. We have a resolution accepting contributions. We received 3 contributions, one being from the men's card playing group of $202. We thank them for that contribution. Also the Sauk Center Fire Relief Association for $39,000 to the fire department. And also the Youth Hockey Association of $1,532.26 for the arena. In addition, I want to just note the Walmart Foundation donated $1,000 to the Shop with a Cop on behalf of the Sauk Center Police Department. So I want to thank Walmart, the men's card playing group, fire relief, and the youth hockey for their contributions. We also have several folks that made in-kind services for 2014, and I do not have that list with you.
It's on page 47, 2013 contributions.
And I just want to make note of those, and we will also publish these, but I want to acknowledge these contributions. The ambulance department, fire department received contributions in 2013 from the ECM publishers of $500. Again, the fire department relief, as I just noted, of $39,000. Emmels for $700, and Bean and Elaine Jensen for $50. The ambulance received also from ECM publishers $500 and Community Connections of $4,000. Police department also received in-kind service of $500 from ECM publishers, and also, as I just noted, Shop with a Cop for $1,000. The senior center had received several funds throughout the year. The men's card playing group, they play a lot of cards up there. They made an in-kind service of $2,606. Sauk Center seniors of $3,000. Again, ECM publishers of $300. Stearns Electric Trust, which is our Operation Roundup, of $500, and Stansbury family of $25. Again, the arena receives funds typically from the Hockey Association, but they make 2 contributions, one of $15,522, and also of hockey boards of $8,497. The Lions Club made a donation to the skating rink of $585. Of course, the animal Walmart always has provided dog food and cat food for a pound, even though we don't have an exact dollar amount. That does add up. Senior Dining, ECM publishers, made a donation of $300 to them. Friends of the Library, which also is ECM publishers, of $100, and the Fly-In Breakfast donation for the airport of $1,112. So thank all of those for their contributions in 2013. And one other thing is we have a gambling application for exempt permit request for the Sauk Center Chamber of Commerce for a raffle on April 4th, 2014 at JP's Pub and Grill. With all of that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
You missed number E.
I missed number E. I am so sorry. Yes. I also have Resolution 2014-15, accepting a contribution. That's not right. 2014-5. Accepting contributions of $10,000 from Community Connection to be used for the splash pad project. I want to thank Community Connection on that one as well. With that addition and the others as I noted, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Dave, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Warren. Any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 5 in favor. All right, for informational items this evening, we just have a few things that we want to note. We have the notice of some cleaning contract fees changes, the Stearns County Municipal League meeting, which is coming up on January 21st, which is next Tuesday. Public meeting for Beltline Road improvements, January 29th, right here at City Hall from 5 to 7 p.m. And also right here a week from today, the airport master plan and layout plan with the committee has a public meeting at 5 p.m. So for those of you that are interested, please attend and take a look at what's going on in 2014. With that, does anybody else have anything for this meeting? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mike, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dave. Sorry about that, Keith. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.